What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel Building Amazing Thing. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to create this login UI, and it's very important that I'm showing you this video because I've seen some of you guys that have done designs and share with me. You guys are lacking some UI tips which I'm going to be telling you guys in this video. Number one is white spacing. We're going to talk about that. Typography, we're going to be talking about that. Type scaling, we also talk about that. Grid system, we also talk about that. How to get 3D UI images, we're also going to be talking about that. Color and color hierarchy, also we're going to be talking about that. With all these components, it will make you to have a great UI design. So remember to subscribe if you're new to this channel. The subscribe button is below this video. Kindly hit on the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you get notified anytime I create a new content on this channel. Then if you're an existing subscriber, thank you for being there. Thank you for always watching my videos. I really appreciate. Continue to like and comment, tell me what you feel about this video, and also share my video to people who are really interested in the video. So guys, the first thing I would need to do is to get my frame. So I'll select the frame, and I go to desktop and I select MacBook Pro. So I want to use MacBook Pro for this design, so we have a fresh artboard and a fresh frame. So I'm going to rename this to login. So now this partner, I'm going to talk about grid system. So grid system really helps you to align content on your frame. It makes your work look very neat and very proportional. Imagine your contents are aligned, or your layouts are aligned very proportional to each other. It makes your UI look like an expert UI. It makes your UI look very professional. So guys, let's do the grid system. So there are two basic type of grid system. There's a row grid system, there's the column grid system, and basically a lot of people use the 8-point grid system, which I'm going to talk about here. Also there's also the 4-point grid system, there's 2-point grid system, 16-point grid system, depending on the one you want to use. So but in this video I'm going to be showing you the 8-point grid system. So make sure, one thing I want you to do is to make sure you go to your Figma icon here, and then go to preferences and go to nudge. So if you're using the 8-point grid system, please set the big notch to be 8 and set the small notch to be 1. Now I'll show you the essence of this, setting up the small notch to be 1 and the big notch to be 8. So if you're using the 16-point grid system, please set this to be 16, and if you're using the 32 or whatever grid system you're using, please set this big notch to that and the small notch to 1. So having said that, let's go ahead and add number 1, the column grid system. So to do that, you just look at the grid here and click on the plus icon. That means we want to add a new grid. So we're going to do some basic setup, which is click on the layer grid setting. There's a box with some dot on it. Just click on it and then select column, because we want the column grid system. So once you do that, once you select the column grid system, you'll see this that shows you the amount. Usually most UI designers use the 12 column grid system. We have some frameworks that have used the 12 column grid, the 12 columns. We have Bootstrap and a lot of them using the 12 column. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to set this to be 12 column, and I'll leave the color the way it is and the opacity to be 10. And what I will do next is to allow this type to be stretched, and I'll make the width auto. Once you select stretch, it's going to be auto. Then I'm going to set the margin. The margin is a space between from one end, from the left and the right. So I'm going to set this to 70, and I'm going to use a gutter of 24. Gutter is the spacing within each of the columns. So I'm using 24. I'm using margin of 80. So you can go ahead and use the margin you think you want to use. So if you want your website to be a little bit thin at the center, so you can increase the margin, and let's say you can make it 150 and it's becoming more slimmer in the middle. So you can see some sites that are more constrained at the center, so you can do something like that. But in this video I'm going to use 70. So well done if you've set your column grid to this setting. That's the first thing we need to do. So I'm going to show you the importance of using column grid here. So if I have this column grid, I can select layouts, like for example the rectangle, and I can snap it to this grid, and just watch, I'll have uniform sizes throughout this grid. This helped me to learn and arrange layouts very awesome on this platform, on this artboard. So I can also do that. I can use the column grid to set something like this. I can snap it. Let's duplicate this. I can snap this into 4 places. Awesome. Equality in the layout, same sizes, and well arranged. So that's the essence of the column grid. Also, let's talk about the row grid system, which is the next thing which we're going to add. And for the row grid system, it helps us to arrange things on the row uniform, proportionally on the row grid system. So to add the column row grid system, what you need to do is select the frame, make sure you select the frame, then click on plus on the grid layout grid. So when I click on plus, I can simply go here and select, I want this time around row grid system. So you could see the row applicable now. So what I can do is you can go ahead and set how many numbers of row you want. I can go ahead to set 10. I can go ahead to set 200, but I'll set as much as I can so that it will show up, like it can occupy the whole space here. So let me just use 300 for this. And I'll go on to set this to start from the top. You can see it's starting from the top. And make sure you set the height to be 8 because we're using the 8-point grid system. And I think we can set the gota to be 0 also. So let me zoom in so you see. You could see these lines. So it is the 8.8 point. So from this point to this point is 8 pixel. From this point to this point is 8 pixel. So now this helps us to also snap things on the row, having uniformity on the size. We can look at the size, and if you look at the height here, it's 80. If I increase this more to, I'm getting like 72, 88 with one more 8. If you look at the height, is 88. If I increase it again, I'm getting to 96. If I increase it again, I'm getting to 104. And if I increase it again, 112. So that is the essence of using the grid. And also this row grid helps us to arrange our typography very, very well. You can set the spacing. I see a lot of designs where the spacings are not uniform. You can use this grid system to really help you arrange your typography and your layouts on this platform. So I hope that you understand what this grid system is, and while you're designing, when you need to turn off the grid system, just click on the eye icon here and you are turning off the grid system. So now the both grid system are turned off. This is the row and the column grid system for this particular design. I hope you learned more about this row and column grid system. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is our resources. Where do I get some resources to use? Basically, we get resources on the internet. They are free and they are paid resources. So depending on what you want to do, the resource I need is an image, a 3D image. So what I can do is to make a Google search and see where I can get those resources. There are tons of websites that provide both free and paid resources, depending on what you want to achieve. For this course, I'm using a free image resource. So what I did is I went to a site called uistore.design. So when you go to uistore.design, they have free resources for you to use, specifically for Figma, Sketch, Adobe XD, InVision Studio, Webflow, which is awesome, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustration. So there's a lot for you. So you can sign up to this. This is not a sponsor, just showing you guys how to get these resources from this platform. So immediately when you come in here, you can click on illustrations. There's a lot of illustrations to look for. I found this in cool free 3D illustration pack for Figma. Very, very interesting. So you can go ahead and click on it and you see what this pack have for you. It has some awesome 3D you can use for your design. So I was going through this and I found these very 3D images. This is awesome. So you can go ahead and download it for your Figma file and use them. Also make sure you make reference to them while using them, because if you don't make reference to them, they won't be able to put out this free contest for us to actually use. So I'm going to literally paste that here. So guys, I have my image which I've downloaded from this website, which is uistore.design. So now I have my image. I'm going to start working on this design. So what I'm going to do now is there are various ways to select colors for your design, and this way which I want to show you is selecting colors from images. You know, images are natural things, so they kind of blend already. Like if you look at this, the colors are awesome, they're already blending. So I'm just going to pick out colors from these images and use literally on this design. So what I'm going to do is to select this frame. I need to give some parts on kind of demarcation for the image and the contents of the login. So let me drag this out here, and then I'm going to select this and turn on the column grid. Then I'm going to pick a rectangle and snap this. I want to snap this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to snap this 5 to the 5th column from the right. So make sure I snap this very well. So, and I'll pick a color for this, and I'll pick this color. I'm going to pick this very color from the image. And I turn off the grid line. So also we have like a kind of demarcation. So I'm using this white space to do the design for the content, like the login button or the input box and the rest of that. Then I'm going to use this part as kind of an image to maybe portray more about what this login page or what the company is all about. So what I can do is to take this here. I want to bring this here. So if you look at this, you can see there's kind of trouble with this image here, the one that has a kind of a mailbox. It's competing with the background. So that is what you have to look out for. You need to make each element be able to be seen, like very visible. So this is not workable. So what I can do here is to then reduce the opacity of this color. That's what we call color hierarchy. Color hierarchy differentiates different elements from each other. But if you have the same color on the same place, it's not going to look very nice. So color hierarchy helps you to differentiate different elements using different colors. So you can add light to your color and you can add shade. When you add light to your color, you're making your color look more tint. When you add shade, you're increasing the color of that particular color. I don't know if you understand that, but let's do that in practical. So what I can do is go to the fill, then use my shift key on the keyboard and use arrow up. Arrow up, I'm adding light to it. Arrow down, I'm adding shade to it. So I'll just do arrow up. And you can see this box, which I mentioned earlier, is getting more visible. That is what you have to look at as a professional until you get what you think is okay. Now I can see that this is really standing out and it actually blends very well with this image. Awesome. These are some of the things that make you a professional, that make you a pro in UI design. So you need to understand some of these things. I just mentioned about color, and I also mentioned one bit of color, which is color hierarchy. You need to make one color stand out from the other color. So having said that, what I can do next is I want to set out the colors for this. So one of the basic way to do this is to have a primary color, to have a secondary color, and your accent colors. So your primary color is the basic color which stands out, which is maybe, let's say, the branding of the company. If your primary color should have, like, let's say 70% of the design. So if you look at what is happening here, we're having a kind of purple that stands out to be the primary color as the basic color on this design already. You're seeing, though white have more, but you could see that this stands out very well. But for now, I'm going to find a way to make this white to also blend with this particular color. That is what UI is all about, making things look appealing to the user and looking very sweet. So guys, what I can do now is to set out my colors. So what I usually do is to select the eclipse and just paste it here. So for my primary color, I want to take this blue from this image. Awesome. So I'm going to duplicate this. For my accent color, if you look at this image, we can use the yellow as the accent color. We can use this other purple as the accent color. So depending on what you want to use, I'm going to use the purple for my accent color. So for my secondary color, sorry about that. So I have two colors, the primary and the secondary color. So you can go ahead and create notification colors, red for danger, green for success, orange for warning and all those kind of stuff. So I would advise you don't have too many colors. Just have a simple primary color and a simple secondary color. Then go ahead and create notification colors. Notification colors like red for danger, green for success, and the rest of that in your design. So from my primary color, I'm going to pick out my white and black. So one of the mistakes UI designer makes, starters or people who are getting into UI design, they use white FFFF, which is the raw white, and they use black #00000. So that makes that, if I see someone who uses that, I know that this person is just getting into UI design. So we need to blend our white and black towards our primary color. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So you create different tints of the primary color, but for now I'm going to create the white and black tints from this primary color. So what I can do is to select the color, go to the field, click this color and change this. We have different color types: hexadecimal, RG blue, which stands for red, green, blue, CSS color, HSL color. So we're going to talk about the HSL. H stands for hue. Hue is the color itself. S stands for shade. You add more shades to the color. L stands for lightening. So I'm going to click on that and go down straight to the lightening and reduce this lightening to 10, and I get the black of this color. Now I'm going to duplicate this also and select the lightening part of it and make it 98. Then I'm having the white color of this. So this is really awesome if you have your colors this way. So guys, this is how I choose my color from images, and I use this color along with other shades from the primary or the secondary, and use my black and white and the notification colors where it's necessary. So guys, that is all about color, and make sure you like this video if you really enjoy what I'm giving out now. If you don't like this video, also give me a thumb down showing me that you don't like this video. If you have any question, let me know in the comment section what you think about everything that is happening here. If there's anything you want me to answer, I'll be able to do that, reply you in the comment section. The next thing which I want to go straight now into is actually adding the content. But before then, this white, I've talked about not using FFF. Use the white of your primary color. So I'm going to select this and use this white, and you see it blends more. So if you look at this, you see 70% of what is here is like purple, blue, kind of, so everything blends very, very well. Turns out if you understand this, you're really learning great tips as a UI designer. So next thing I'm going to do is typography. Typography is an essential part of UI designs. So typography is one field that you can't skip, because there are text content on your designs, text content on your layouts, and how you present those texts, the kind of face you use for those texts, the sizes you use for those texts also matters. The color hierarchy you use on those texts also matters. You don't want to create text that users find it very difficult to actually read, or they can't really understand what they find it difficult reading those contents. So typography is one essential thing which you must know as a UI designer. So one thing you need to learn about typography is typography skill. The sizes. How do you go ahead and say, okay, this should be the bigger size, this should be the smaller size, and this should be the more smaller size, and the rest of that. We know in website designs that we have the H1 if you're coming from the development field, where we have the H1 on the HTML, we have the H1, the H2, the H3 down to the H6, and we know that the H1 is bigger than the H6. So how do you then say, okay, my H1 should be this size, my H2 to be this size, and my H3 to be that size. Also, we also know there are paragraph text, there are caption text, there are subtitle text. These are different kind of text or typography you will have to add in your UI design. So how do you go about that? So I use this tool which is called Typeface. You can go to typeface.com, just enter. So I'm going to refresh this so you guys get to see what I'm going to say about this typeface. So you can go to typeface.com. So what I can do is usually you set your base size. Your base size is like the paragraph, the basic text on your website, the text that most people will get to read in a lengthy manner, like it contains a lot of context, that the text has a lot of context. That should be your base text. So usually as a UI designer, most people use a base text of 16, depending on the project you're working on. If you're working on a marketing project, a marketing landing page project, your base text should be more bigger, let's say 18. This will give make your text more bigger and your user gets to read more of the content. And if you're just working on a UI, I advise you use 16. Some people might go ahead and use 14, but basically 16 is like the basics, is like the standard. So the next thing is the scale. This is where we this is where this tool comes to help us. So there are different scaling methods. You could have heard about the golden ratio scaling method, the perfect fonts, the augmented fonts. So the different type. You can go ahead and research about this. But for this, I'm using the minor third. The minor third is more, it gives you a smaller scale of your text, and most UI designs use the minor third. You can also see the major third, but I'm going to use the minor third for this. Then you can go ahead and set your basic, remember, your basic type you are using. Remember, the typeface also, it has so many meanings which is attached, just like the color. When I mentioned using red, it has this kind of danger feel for the user, which is actually looking at your UI. Remember that UI design is more about centered to the user, making it appealing for the user to actually see and very comfortable to use. So, and I'm going to set the width basic to be 400, and we now look at the type scale which it has provided us here. You can see the type scale, you can see the sizes you can use both in REM and in pixel format. And now let's look at our basic. The basic is the one highlighted, which is going to be 16 pixel. So I want a bigger text, so I'm going to use a bigger paragraph. I'm going to call this my paragraph, and I need a bigger paragraph. This should be 19.20. If I need a smaller paragraph, it should be 13.33. So my paragraph lies between 13.33, 16.0 0 pixel, 19.20 pixel. Then I can start calculating my H6. This should be my H6. That is my heading 6. This should be my heading 5. This should be my heading 4. This should be my heading 3. So if I need more, this should be my heading 2, and this should be my heading 1. Perfect. So you can use this. You can go to your Figma and maybe create text and set them as a rules or as components in your design, but I'm not going to do that. Maybe I will create more videos that will talk about typography, specifically for typography, specifically for colors, specifically for grid systems and the rest of that, so that you get more insight. But I'm going to use this scaling. Remember, this should be my 16 should be my paragraph, basic paragraph. This should be my bigger paragraph. This should be my smaller paragraph, and this should be from H6 down to up to H1. So having said that, you have your typography ready to use, and the sizes are ready to use. So let's start building the content which should be on this part of the frame. So without wasting much of your time, we'll jump into building this layout. So the first thing I want to do is the logo. So what I can do is just click on the text, and let me increase the size so you guys get to see what I'm actually keying in. So I want the logo to be free 3D. Awesome. So now what size am I going to use? And this is my paragraph. This is my bigger paragraph. So I want to use the heading 6 for my logo. And I'm going to put that here. Select that and put that here. My font type, I'm going to use Montserrat for heading. Or let me use Pompous for the heading. Pompous. Awesome. Then I'm going to use regular. and it's a smaller text. I'm going to use a spacing of let's say 1.5 because it's a smaller text. So we'll also talk about the spacing rule later on when I create a full video for typography. So I can then select this part of the 3D and make it maybe semi bold or make it extra bold. Let's just use bold, and I'm going to select the free and use medium, and okay. So I'm going to change the color. This color I'm going to use our secondary color for it, and for this one I'm going to use our primary color for it. So the next thing I want to do is the welcome text. So I'll say welcome back. So for the color of the welcome back, I'm going to use the black. Excuse me, I'm having some cough. That's why this video delayed. I was not able to finish up because of I'm having some cough. So what I can do for this now is the size. So what I want to use for this, I want to use this is heading 6. I want to use bigger paragraph, which is 23.04, and let's see what it looks like. No, I want this to stand out more than the logo, so I'm going to, the logo is using the heading 1, so I heading 6, so I'm going to use heading 4 for that. So let's use heading 4 for this. Okay, it stands out great. Excuse me, sorry about that. So we have a welcome back, and I'm changing this to regular. Okay, nice, standing out from this. So next thing I want to do is add a text that says sign in by entering the information below. So sign in by entering the information below. So, and I'm going to use, this is our base text. I'm going to use the bigger paragraph for this. So I'm going to give it that size. Give it that size. And this should be Montserrat. So I want my headings to be Montserrat. Good. And I'm going to set it to medium. Good. And this alt text, I'm going to set it to Pompous, that's correct, which is the bigger fonts and the bigger paragraph. Then I'll change the color. I'll use this very color. And what next? So I'm going to bring it closer to this. Now here comes the part where we have to use our color hierarchy. If you look at this, these both are fighting for attention, not by size, because the size really have vindicated both of them. But if you look at this color, is more competing with this color. So I want the user to have more attention to welcome back before this. So what I can do is, so I'll go to the color and add more tints to it. As I'm adding more tint, it has reduced. So the color hierarchy for this welcome and this are different. You can see it's blending now on this. So awesome. If you have learned this, this is some of the tips which I promise you guys that I'm going to be giving out on this video. We're not going to talk about the arrangement yet. We'll do that later on, but make sure you're watching this video and you are taking notes of what I'm actually giving out in this video, and make sure you watch the video to the end. Make sure you watch the video to the end. At the ending, I'm going to tell you how to present this on Instagram. A lot of you have asked me, how do I export these designs to Instagrams and post it on maybe your different social media platform, dribbles, and the rest of that. I'm going to show you guys how to do that at the ending, towards the end of this video. So the next thing I want to do, I want to create the input box. So the content of the input box, so first of all, is the email address. So I'm going to start doing that for the email address. So what I can do is take a text and I want the user to enter email address, and once the person enters the email address, let's say the person's email address is example email@example.com. This should be our email. Then I can then use my typography rules to work on this. So I'm going to make this 16 pixel, which is the basic which the user has entered. So I'm going to make that 16. I'm going to change it to maybe medium or regular. Right, I think this is okay. And what next? I'm going to set this one. I don't want that one to look more competing with that. I'm going to set it to be 13. And yeah, exactly. So I have this to be 13 and this one to be this 13, this one is to be 16. So a kind of hierarchy going on here. So another thing you can do is color hierarchy. So I'm going to pick the color of this and give this that color, because I don't want to draw more attention. I want to draw more attention to what the user is actually entering. Then for the color, I'm going to use the basic color, and I can set this to medium, and this is fine. And what next? I think I'm going to select the both of them and use what should I do now? I can use auto layout on it, and to add auto layer you can do Shift A. So I want the spacing between the both of them to be 4, right? And I think this is okay. So now I can then group this. So I have a group. This should be input text content, and then I can add auto layout to this as well. So I have an auto layout. Oh, where did the group go? So I can group this again, and I have the group to be input text. Then this should be the input text box. So guys, I hope you understood what I did there. If you didn't understand, please watch it again. So I have the input box, I have a group, input box content, then I have the frame, the auto layer frame, which I can use to set this to be either 8 or 4. Then I have a group, then the auto layout at the outside. So guys, make sure you watch this part very well. If you don't understand it, watch it again and again. So what I can do is to turn on the layer grid. Now you can see the essence of the column grid. So I want this to start from this point and also end at this point. Awesome. Then I want this to start at this point from the left and is centered align, left center align, and the spacing from the left, I want it to be 24. Then if this is okay, I can turn on the row, and let's snap it to the row. So make sure this is snapped to the row and this is also snapped to the row, and we'll have this. So I can then add a stroke to this. You can select a stroke, and I'll pick the color of this text and add it to the stroke. Then I can add some radius by clicking here and adding cardinal radius of 4, and let's see what we have. I'm going to turn off the grid lines, and this is what we have. So I think this is okay. Let's see what we can do more to make it more intuitive, more interesting. So I can turn on the row grid and see, let's see if we can increase this a little bit. 64, and let's see, turn off the row grid. I think this is more okay. So for the line, I think it's more thick, so I will add some shade to make it blend with the dashboard. And I think this is okay, so I can snap it here. I can reduce this color. I think it's too competitive, So I can reduce it a little bit. And yes, we have this. Awesome. So what I can do now is to make this a component. So the essence of making this a component is for you to be able to reuse this, because I'm going to create this again for the password. So I don't want to, you can duplicate it here, but what happens if I want to change something entirely on this? So what I can do is to duplicate this and actually use this, or make this a component by clicking here. When you click on this, it creates it as a component. You can see this is an input box component. So once I want this again, I can go to assets, and it's going to bring out all the components on this login. So I can drag this and I have this duplicated again. So the essence of this is if you go back to your layout, this is a sub component of the main component. This shows that is the main component. The one with the dots show that is the main component. This one is showing that is a sub component. So when you make changes on the main component, it changes on the sub component. Like if I change this color of the text, if I change it to this color, you can see that this other one changes as well. That's the essence of components. So if you have this input box in thousands of pages in your design, you don't have to redesign every bit of it. So that's another tip which you're taking out from this video, components. So I'm going to rename this to change it to password. I'm using a character for password and change this to password. So awesome. And I have this, and it's great, looking awesome already, looking great. So I think I'm making this to be medium so it comes out well, and I think it's better now. So if you look at this, the alignment, there are some issues. They're not pretty really arranged the way we want them to arrange. So I'm going to show you that when we start using the row and the column grid. So the next thing I want to do is a remember me. So I can pick this text and use it because it has the size which I want. So I can set this to remember me. Oh, I'm bad with spelling. Sorry about that. Remember me. So I will duplicate this for someone who has forgotten password. You can say forgotten password. So these are two things. And what I can do, I need an icon to give more details to this. So I can use my icon plugin, sorry, and then look of Font Awesome. So what I need for this is like a check where you can select. So I can search for check, and I think I'm going to go with this. So this is the check. I'm going to bring it into the login frame, and I'm changing the color. So you can see the colors here. So I'm going to select the primary color. That means it is checked. If once it's not checked, you know, with a color that looks faded. So I'm going to click on constraint proportion here and make this to be 16, and let's see what we have with 16. I think 16 is okay. So what I can do is to use the auto layouts to really align this together and create a nice spacing. So I can use my select the both of them, Shift A, and you can see auto layout added already. I can make the spacing within them to be 16 pixel, and set my alignment to be centered throughout. So I'm going to do that for the forgotten password. You go to my plugin, go to icons, Font Awesome, and look for I want to look for eye icon, and I think this. No, actually I'm not using this. But I'm going to use this later. So let me go back to plugins and Font Awesome. There are different kinds of icon you want to use. I want to use information, and I'm going to use this info. So what thing I want to do is to drag the info into the login, and click on constraint proportion and make it 16 as well. And I'm going to change the color. I'm going to use this color of this border for the input box. So I have something like this. So I'm going to select both of them and click on add auto layout, make the spacing to be 16 and make it all centered. Awesome. So I'm going to select this boot and also add auto layout on it. Awesome. Then I'm going to turn on the grid column, and I want to align this from this point, and I can drag this to this point and then set the spacing to be auto. That way it snaps to both ends. So if I want to snap it to this end, it also snaps as well. So that's the essence of making it auto. So I can also drag the eye icon. Let me turn off the grid line so you see what I'm doing. I can select the eye icon, drag it in here as well. Click on constraint proportion, make it 16, and select the color, select color, and choose, I can choose this color as well, and that's fine. I can take this and bring it in here. Awesome. So this helps the user to know if they want to see the password, they can click on it to see the password or hide the password. So I can hold the option key and it gives me some measurement which I can use to align it properly. So I'll take this up and look at it. I want to take it up to 24, 25, which is almost okay. And towards the right, I'm going to make it 24 as well. I think this is pretty awesome. So we have this, I can select this and then use my Command G to group them and call this password input. It's also good to rename your contents. It's good to rename the layout so that if you have other UI designers, they can also look at and understand each of the layouts. So the next thing I want to do is the button. So for the button, what I can do, what size are we going to use for the button? So the size I can use for this button, let's go back to our type scale. So I'm going to use 19.20, which is the big font for paragraphs. So I'm going to paste this, and paste it on here. Paste it on the size and then make it medium. And the content should be, let's say, continue, that's continuing the login process. And I'll add auto layout to it by using my Shift A to add auto layout. I've added auto layout. So I'm going to set this to auto. Remember what I did about the auto. So when I turn in the column grids, I can easily snap this from this point and also snap it here. Make sure you snap it very well. You can zoom in to make sure it is well snapped to that point. So next thing I can do is I can turn on the row as well, so that I will create size that matches with the 8-point grid. So I'll snap it here as well, and look at this as well, snap it very well, and I have a size of 48 also. So I can turn off these grid lines and look at the continue, and I can add a fill to it and use my primary color as the fill. Awesome. Then the text, I'm going to change the color to my white of my primary color, and I have the continue as well. Awesome. So one other thing I want to do is in case you don't have an account and you want to create one, you can't log in, so you have to create one. So I'm going to select this text and I'm going to make it a basic paragraph. So I'll paste it. So a basic paragraph should be 16, right? So I'm going to paste this here and set this to be 16 pixel. Then the content of the text, I'm going to make it center align. Then the content of the text should be don't have an account, and this should be question mark. Then what next? You should create one. So I'm going straight to create one here. So I'm going to select this here and make it as a link very visible to the user to use. And go to the properties of the text, just click on this three dots here and use the underline. So it makes it more makes it more call to action than just a text. Next thing, I want to show that we maybe draw more attention to the owners of this page, so you can get an idea of who's the owner of the page. So at 2020 free 3D, okay, it can reduce this, add some lighting into it so it doesn't stand out than others. Okay, fine. So look at our design. This is awesome already, but I think there are some issues with this. Do you know the issues with this? If you guessed right, it is arrangement, white spacing. So if you don't really arrange your white spaces, your designs are not going to look great, even though you do some other things. So on this design, we worked on grid, we worked on image, we worked on color, we worked on typography, color typography. We look at components, we look at icons. We also talked about buttons. We also talked about auto layer. This is a full package giveaway for all of you. I didn't mention yesterday was my birthday, and I didn't have time to come and talk about it on YouTube because I wasn't feeling too strong or whatever. So if you can also wish me happy birthday in the comment section, I'll be very glad you did. So guys, let's tidy up these designs as fast as we can, so we can use the grid system to do that. So I'm going to turn on each of the grid system, and for the column, what I can do is to select all of them, select everything I have here, and use the alignment tools at the top. So I want everything to be centered. Awesome. Then I will make sure they snap to the column, which I want them to. It's snapping to the column. So everything snaps to the column from this end to the other end. Awesome. That's one way. So the columns are looking more also awesome. So I can drag this a little bit, shift it a little bit. I can reduce the size by selecting the scale tool and reduce the size a little bit. Whatever you want to do that thinks it is going to look great. This is looking great already, and I have some issues with this color here. I think it's still competing. Well, I'm going to make it regular and set it centered. Sorry. I'm going to select everything again. Make sure I select everything and make it centered. So I think this is okay now. So what you can do now, colors okay, text hierarchy okay. So the next thing you can do is row grid alignment. So we're going to make everything to snap to the row. That way we have a good design. So if you look at this free, it's not snapping to the row. So I'm going to make it snap to the row. Awesome. Then for this, I'm going to, I think it's okay here where it is, but it's not snapping to the row. So I'm going to bring it down to snap with the row. Awesome. Then also this very one, also make it to snap to the row. Then bring it up a little bit. And I think it's okay here. Then for this two, I'm going to make it snap to the row. Okay. And the spacing between them, I'm going to just use, give them 3 spacing. And then you can use your column to check the spacing 24. Or you can also use your shift. That's the essence. We set the notch to be 8, the big notch. When you use your shift up, it snaps by 8. But once you use one arrow key, it's 1 pixel. It moves by 1 pixel. So now that it's snapping, I can use the shift to move by 8. Can you see the essence of it? And also makes your UI design faster. So for this, I'm going to make the remember me to also snapping. So I'm going to bring it to the up using the shift a little bit, bring it up a little bit, and take it down. So it's snapping to it. Awesome. Then for the welcome and the continue button, I'm going to take it up also, and make sure it snaps to the 8-point grid. So I can use my shift to actually select where to put it. Then this should also go closer to the welcome to the continue button. So I'm going to make it snap to the grid as well. Then for this, I'm going to bring it up a little bit and make sure it snaps to the grid line as well. So it snaps out. So awesome. If you have done this, let's turn on the row and make sure to select everything here and make it centered align. Awesome. This is really great. This is really great. So I can select this both and use my shift and snap it down. Everything will look really great. Equal spacing within each element. So I have equal spacing within the element, and my image is looking awesome, and the colors as well are looking pretty okay. Guys, that is it about this video, but there's one thing other left, and that thing is, how do I present this on Instagram? Guys, if you have watched to this point, thumbs up. You really did a great job. You have learned a lot. You have learned about colors, grid, image, typography spacing, scaling, color hierarchy, components, where to pick icons, plugin. A lot I've learned on this video. And if you really enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, share this video to everyone who needs it, and also comment on the video and let me know what you think about this. So what I'm going to do is to duplicate this. I want to show you guys, this is a giveaway, how to present your design. So I did a video where you can do this with Editor X, so I'll drop the link above here. Check out the link and watch how to present this into a real website design. So I'm going to duplicate this, and we're talking about presentation. So I'm going to bring this at this point. This is what I want to present. So I'm going to click on the frame. I'm going to select social media because I want to post it on social media, depending on where you want to post it. So this is going to be Instagram post. So I'm going to select Instagram post, and I have my Instagram post. So one of the things I usually do is just pick a color from this. So I'm going to pick this color, and you can rename this to be Instagram post. Yeah. So Instagram post. What I can do here is I can use my scale tool and then reduce this a little bit. I keep reducing till I feel it can go into this design. Awesome. So I can increase it a little bit and make sure it's fine. So I have one challenge here. This background is blending with this background here. So what I can do is to add a stroke to this and make the stroke to be white and close. Awesome. It's coming out already. So can make the stroke to be like 3 pixel or 2 pixel, and you have something like this. Great. Another thing you can do is to use your alignment tool and make sure they align top center very well. Then you add effects to it. I'm going to add a shadow. I'm making the blur to be 16, and I think this is okay. You can also reduce the opacity, and I'll make the opacity 15 as well. So if you look at this, it's coming out very well. So I can as well keep playing with this. I can make this 120, so it blends very well, and that is it. It kind of pops out. Then you can play with other things, like add some shapes to make it more interesting. You can change the color. I can use this color. I can snap this to like 300. Then I can reduce it some kind of different styles and take this at the back, and I'm using my command bracket up and down to actually, so I can duplicate this severally on this design, and I can change the colors and play with the colors and just get some kind of things to just make it more interesting. I can bring it here, make it more interesting. Whatever you want to do, just be creative about it. Remember to also put your name, bring a text and put your name. Then you can now click on this and go to export. Yeah, and then make sure you select 4 because it makes it more quality. This one is a low quality, so select 4x, makes it more higher quality. Then click on export, select where you want to export it, and that is it. Guys, thank you for watching this video. If you really watched this video to the end, you're a legend. Thank you. You have learned a lot about UI design. You can now call yourself a pro if you implement all these I've mentioned in this design. It makes your design really awesome. The spacing, the color hierarchy, the text hierarchy or the typography hierarchy, the typeface, picking colors and the rest of that makes your design really awesome. Thank you. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Remember to share, like, and subscribe. And also we'll see you next week when I create another video on Friday. Bye bye. Cheers. Love you all.